many healthcare areas. And so using CRM, we're able to connect that and attribute that roaming for our efforts. So we try to target folks, right? How many of you have had a manager or one of your administrators ask you to send a blast, send an email blast to your entire database? Yeah, right? And so, I don't know, maybe before this position about a year ago, I would have thought the same, oh sure, just send an email to everybody. And let's, we have this new product, we have this new service, we want to make sure that everybody knows about it. Well, of course, we know that that's not always the best thing to do. It can hurt us over the long term. People unsubscribe, they don't find our messages relevant. Hit the spam button, hit the use button. So we like to target folks. And not to sound too creepy, but at CHI Health, since we have that CRM, we get the data into the CRM from our electronic medical records. So we know quite a bit about our patients. We know what conditions they have been diagnosed with. We know what procedures they've had. We know how often they come in. We know how much money they spend, things like that. Without making it too creepy on them, we try to stay vague enough, I guess. But we target them based on their propensities to have certain conditions, propensities to have certain procedures if they have certain ailments and that sort of thing. Try to make it more relevant to people, Try to not blast as much as possible. Yeah.
A question.
Sure.
So, are you saying you kind of do what the retail industry would say cross-sell, upsell? I mean,
Sure.
Really you're leveraging people's
We are.
hospital experiences to say, come back.
We are, yeah. So if we know that someone has been diagnosed with, for example, joint pain, maybe they've been diagnosed with knee pain, they've been going and seeing their doctor about knee pain, they are probably going to be a candidate for a knee replacement at some point in time. So we might start sending them information about getting a knee replacement. Now, we try to do that, like I said, not to be too creepy, but try to do that like in a suggestive manner and say, hey, have you considered, or did you know that we offer this? These are the locations, or hey, we have this seminar coming up where you can come and hear from some of our orthopedic surgeons who can tell you about knee replacements and that sort of thing. So there's a fine line, but yeah, I don't know if a lot of health systems are doing that. More and more, it's getting that way. That's for sure. One of the things that I've learned over the last year is that it's good to have a mix, communicate to people rather than sell to people. We've heard that. So it's not often in healthcare that we get to do like a real hard sell, but we do have a couple of services. This is an example of one that I would consider very transactional. It's very straightforward. It's a service that we offer called virtual care. And if you live in Iowa or Nebraska, you can take advantage of this service. It's $10. You get to fill out a form or call a phone number, and within 10 or 15 minutes, a physician or PA will either call you back or Skype you or FaceTime you. And you can chat with that provider over the phone. Most of the visits take about 15 or 20 minutes. Describe your symptoms, whatever issue you're having, if it's a rash or if it's an infection, maybe you have a sinus infection or a cold, something like that. Works really well for those kinds of things. I've used it a handful of times myself. They can send a prescription down to your local pharmacy, you can go pick that up. Works really well for parents, kids up in the middle of the night, coughing, screaming, high fevers. They can get that peace of mind and know that it's not that big of a deal, you can wait until tomorrow, you can go see your primary physician in the morning, or, yeah, that fever is really bad, you need to go to the ER right away. So for $10, something that we offer, but we've done some targeted sales, people who we know are qualified. There's some qualification, like Medicaid, certain government assisted kind of programs. You're not able to utilize the service. I don't know why, it's $10, but for whatever reason, the government doesn't want us to allow those folks to utilize the service. But this is an example of one of our, what I would consider more of a hard sell messages. We also do a monthly e-newsletter, and this is more of communicating with people, giving them health tips, wellness tips, letting them know what we're doing, if we have any new research or if we have any new programs. We send this on a monthly basis, as I said, and we have a nice mix of editorial content. It does take a little bit of effort, but there's a team approach to it. It's integrated within our division, so we have representatives from PR, graphic design, marketing, digital, all the different areas represented. And then we have experts in our organization who help us either write the content or they're able to be interviewed. And we interview and write content regarding these different topics that maybe are timely. We try to stay timely and current with those monthly events that are health events or weekly or days. Every day is something, right? It's like the Diabetes Awareness Day or month or week or Heart Awareness Month day, all those sorts of things. So we try to tie in with all those as much as we can. Automated programs, definitely something you should probably take advantage of. How many of you are already using automated programs? Most of you. Great. I could probably learn from most of you. I'll be honest, we are only using one, but I'm really excited as I heard over the weekend our Silver pod just got updated. And so we have this new, what is it, Blueprint? Is that right? I'm really excited to dive into that and see if there's anything else in there that we can leverage. Right now we're doing a birthday campaign. Pretty rudimentary probably. I'm sure most of you are doing similar things, or you have other drip campaigns or nurture campaigns that are automated. It's the kind of thing that I guess you could sort of set it and forget it in a way. It's one of those touch points. It's a soft touch point. Took a little bit of effort on my part to get our higher ups to say, yeah, that's a good idea. They wanted there to be a CTA. They wanted there to be some sort of. I'm like, no, we don't need to do that. We can just say, hey, happy birthday. We know who you are. We recognize that, and I think based on our database size, we send out maybe 400 to 500 of these a day, and we get a handful every day. People reply back and say, thank you so much. Thank you to Dr. So-and-so and Nurse So-and-so and the staff at such and such clinic. I really appreciate that. They think it's coming from their physician, which is kind of funny, but definitely something I would recommend. I did suggest one thing, because I know that we all enjoy getting those free meals and coupons from the retailers on our birthday. I thought, what could we do? And I'm still thinking, so if you have an idea for me, let me know. I suggested maybe we could figure out if we could operationally do like maybe a free colonoscopy or something like that. But they said no, that would not work. So if you have any suggestions for me of something that we might be able to do, I would be all ears. Because I think that would be very, very cool to be able to offer something. Dynamic content. So all those fields that you have in your database, gender, address, geography, presence of children is one that we have, marital status. We try to leverage those when appropriate. Here's an example of a colonoscopy email. It's a reminder. It's an annual reminder for folks, or yeah, I believe it's annual for certain people at a certain age, maybe biannually. But men see the creepy guy creeping through. Ladies will see the creepy lady. I guess I didn't realize that you could really tell a person's gender just from their eyeballs, but you kind of can. So it's a subtle thing. You know, what does it take, 5-10 minutes to put that together and set that? It's a subtle thing, something that doesn't take a whole lot of effort on my part, but could definitely speak to the recipient a little bit more. I'm sure we're all personalizing our emails, so this may be rudimentary for some of you, but definitely personalize your emails. We did a lot of A/B testing right when I first started, and we saw a significant increase in click-through rate, open rates, if we used in the subject line, if we used the person's name. And so this is an annual reminder for folks to get a mammogram if they fall in that criteria, that age range and that sort of thing. We send this out on a monthly basis to women who had a mammogram the previous year. And so it's kind of like I said before about the creepy factor. We don't get too specific. Email is not considered HIPAA compliant, so we can't really use any PHI in the email. We can't say, Michelle, you had a mammogram last year on this date. It's now time for you to get another one. We can do that in direct mail, where it's in a sealed envelope, and we do that as well. Here we keep it a little bit more vague, a little bit more in the gray area to say, hey, you know, maybe you should take a few minutes, schedule a mammogram if you would like. Keep the CTA very clear there. Yeah, Laura?
I'm curious around that, though, can you kind of, have you tested or tried being a little bit more vague, like, you know, we recommend a mammogram every 12 months and time that to the last 12, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, we did, not with mammogram, we did some testing with another procedure where we did a more vague CTA. And I think I have an example of that email. It's an acid reflux procedure. And when it was more vague, people didn't really respond to it. So with that CTA being very clear and direct and actionable, people tended to click more.
Another
Yeah.
question on that, are you tracking conversions, if you will?
Yeah.
Are you tying it to whether they actually come into?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, we absolutely are. And that's difficult traditionally to do. But because we do have that CRM, we have the data that's flowing in each month from our electronic medical record systems. And so then it's kind of delayed. It's not immediate. It's not like Amazon where you can just hit a shopping cart and see, oh, they clicked there and they bought the thing. So it takes a few months to really see that there's that return on marketing investment. But yes, we are. Since we have the CRM connected to the electronic medical records, we can see exactly who we sent the email to and how many of those people actually came and got their mammogram from the email reminder. Mm-hmm. Yep.
What is CTA?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Click call to action.
Okay.
Call to action. So that when I refer to call to action, it's like the pink button at the bottom that says request appointment. Yep. Sorry about that. This annual mammogram reminder is actually one of our best performing. I don't know what industries have as far as benchmarks go for open rates and click-through rates, but I can tell you as far as ours go, this is off the charts. Most of our other email sends have around 20-25% open rate max.
That's interesting. I run with some of our benchmark studies,
Mhm.
so it's right around 21, 22.
Okay, so most of our emails probably fall within the typical. And then click-through rate, Lauren, would that be typically 1-ish, 2-ish%?
It varies by industry pretty widely, but
Okay.
you know, 2 to 4% across
Okay.
most industries
Mhm.
is about average.
Okay. So most of our other emails tend to be 1 to 2%. So I'm always very excited when I see the results from our mammogram trigger. Yes?
Are open still counted as previews in like Outlook?
If the image displays, I believe, is that correct?
The only thing,
You're not supposed to have
if the
any
tracking
images.
pixel loads, doesn't matter, anything else doesn't matter, that's the way you track it, okay? But in Silver Pop and 6 out of 10 ESPs, if you send a text email and they click on it, we count that as an open, so we consider it an implied open, even though there's no tracking pixel in it. But there's very few text emails that go out there, so we can't do it, yeah.
It's a good point. I wonder, do you all, I mean, I do, it takes me a little bit of time sometimes to format it nicely, but do you all do a text version of each email that you send? You spend time doing that? I wonder how, I don't know how often people open those, but.
The historical reason for it was, back in the early days, a lot of, particularly Lotus Notes and stuff like that.
Sure.
Don't render, didn't render, like the early versions of AOL didn't render text, stuff like that. The main reason most people still do it is a lot of the ISPs have a, spam filter,
Oh, okay.
spam check
They want it to
algorithm
match.
that looks for that.
Sure.
The spammers do a lot of weird stuff with
Right.
text emails. And they actually compare the text
Oh, is that right?
between the two, so, but, if you don't have one, still recommend it though.
Mhm.
It's actually kind of controversial these days.
Is it interesting? And I wonder with like the wearables and the Apple Watches and things like that.
Well,
I wonder if
so
that's
it's coming back
coming
again,
back.
because like the Apple Watch will only render
Yeah.
text, email and stuff, but it's like 1/10 of 1%.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that it
The market share
even
is-
renders on my devices list, but it's a good point, very interesting. Another thing, I don't know, if I get really excited when I use animation. I don't know if you guys do too, but you can't really embed video yet. I think one of these days probably. It's not really cross platform yet, so you can use animation. There are some websites that you can go to and just put in a video link and then tell it which sections you want to make the animation, which frames. And so on our birthday email, we actually animate the candle, so it's just a little touch that grabs your eye. And you guys are probably already doing this. I see some really cool stuff from the retailers, and I get really excited about that. Something that you can consider to do. It's not too much work. If you have a graphic person who can help you with that, they can probably just do this in Photoshop, and it wouldn't take too much effort. Another example of an email, this is the one that I mentioned earlier, Lauren. This is the links procedure. So if you have acid reflux, it might be something that can be solved with this device. Kind of similar to like the lap band style for weight loss. It's this magnetic ring set that goes around the top of the stomach. Tight enough to keep the acid from flowing up into the esophagus, but loose enough to allow you to eat and food can flow through. That's an example of using animation embedded within an email.
Corey, did you test?
Yeah.
Like, using the GIF and
We did. We did tests for a few different months with and without it, and the click-throughs with the animation were much higher. And people, they wanted to click through to learn more about it. We also tested with the CTA having a specific, like make an appointment sort of thing versus just learn more about the links procedure. And maybe we'll go down. And people were more interested in just learning more about it. I think this is one of those procedures where it's like, they're not going to just get it tomorrow. This is something that maybe takes 6 months or a year. Question?
Does it render in all clients? Because we've had issues with Outlook not pulling through something like that.
It's a good point. It does not render in Outlook, I don't believe yet.
Okay.
I don't know, there's so many different versions. And of course, being in healthcare, we never have the latest, most up-to-date versions. We're usually a few versions behind everyone else. But, I do use the preview, the litmus kind of preview things, and I don't believe that it does. So what it renders is the very first frame,
Okay.
which is still, still interesting. It shows those things. So just make sure your very first frame is something that's useful. But the vast majority of our consumers are not using Outlook. So, any other questions? Yeah.
I have a comment.
Sure.
It doesn't render on the Outlook on the computer, but it's on the phone, it renders.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And also on like Outlook web access, if you use a webmail client for Outlook, it does render on that as well. And then on your phones, if you use, like Exchange, you have Outlook, on your phone it will work as well. Content. Was it Bill Gates? Content is king? Is that right? Content, don't underestimate your content. So especially when I'm talking about our e-newsletter content that we send out each month. Those images, those headlines that we use, very important when we're looking at click-through rates. We found a sort of, recipe that seems to work really, really well. Now, I don't know if it's maybe kind of sounds clickbaity in a way, but people really tend to respond to that number of ways to something. Works really well. And I'm gonna show you some examples of some of our high-performing headlines from this year so far. And of course, infographics, we all love infographics. They work well on email, they work well on social, they're shareable, and then printables. What's it? adult coloring books? Anyone? So our mental health experts at CHI Health, they say, yeah, these are really great. People tend to use these adult coloring books. It's good for their memory. It's good for relieving stress, all that sort of thing. And those have done very, very well for us in our e-newsletter. So some examples of our headlines, if you're interested in headlines and maybe subject lines as well, there's probably some crossover here. 10 Ways to Crush Your Cravings really has outperformed any of our other headlines so far this year. Year is young, we only have 4 stories in each e-newsletter each month, so we'll see what happens down the road. But so far, it's way outperformed even the second place headline. And this is an example of how it looks in the e-newsletter. 10 Ways to Crush Your Cravings. The next one is why you should walk like a penguin. I think there's that element of mystery. People are like, what are they talking about? And in line, this is what it looked like in our email. Who doesn't want to click on a couple of cute penguins, right? So the thing about it is, we have an orthopedic surgeon who, in his spare time, he raps. He writes lyrics and makes funny videos, and so he contacted us and asked us if there was a way that he could do something that we could tie in with marketing efforts. And so a few months back, I think this was in our January newsletter when it was cold in Omaha, snowing and ice everywhere, and so we ran this in that e-newsletter. I'll play you the video real quick if you'd like to hear it. It's about 2 minutes, very brief. You can see it's a little tongue-in-cheek, a little cheesy and corny, and I think it's better that it wasn't like highly produced. We didn't get our video team involved in it, just because I saw the lyrics at the time and I thought, maybe if he just does it himself in an iMovie or something. I don't know. There's something more organic or natural about it. There's just something that he does on the side. We worked with him to make sure that it fits brand standards and that he's using actual stock images that we purchased and that sort of thing, not Google images. But actually, to be honest with you, that video did amazing. I don't know, it really resonated with people. The local TV stations in Omaha picked it up and they played it on the ABC affiliate there. On YouTube, it has the highest number of views of any of our other videos, and we do a lot of videos, but that one in particular has the most number of views. And it's not viral by any means if you were, judging by other videos on YouTube, but for our system, it definitely is the best. So maybe those of you out there consider, chatting with your engaged physicians, and if they do something on the side, maybe there's something you can do to tie in with that. Is it the fountain of youth? It's another one. I think there's some mystery behind that. This is what this headline looked like in line. An article about a pill that's being studied and researched that could potentially add years to your life. 6 habits to take to heart. Another one of those, number of something to do something. That kind of recipe really works well for us. And this is what that would look like in line. Infographics are something, I don't know about you guys, I love infographics. They're scannable, they're easy to just glance through, you get all the information you need. So we had someone on our team develop put together the content, found many of the common household chores, and then about how many calories you burn doing them for about 30 minutes. And then our graphics department put together this infographic. Works well on social, works well on email as well. We included this in our e-newsletter 1 month. Did very, very well. Another one, our graphics folks put together this infographic of sorts, showing you how many grams of fat and how many calories are in your burger if you choose different items. Now in print, you have to kind of manually add up, if you choose each item. Well, I thought, why don't we make this more interactive? So have you been to Fiverr? The website Fiverr, Fiverr, is that right? I paid, I think it was a teenager, like maybe $30, and he developed this JavaScript application for us, and it makes it interactive, so you can click on all the different toppings that you want, and then on the side it adds it up for you. So just think of other ways. It doesn't have to be anything too expensive, because obviously we don't have like a budget for that sort of thing. We don't have any developers with time to put into something silly like this, but I gave it to some teenager. He had some time. Got him on Fiverr. A couple weeks, I had this nice little application we threw together, so that was pretty cool.
That works within the email?
No, I'm sorry, that does not work within the email. That takes you to the website. Yeah, it's embedded in our website. So a printable, one of the adult coloring books. So we put together a whole slew of different coloring pages, and they're in a downloadable PDF format, and did really, really well. So this is one of those things where we're just kind of thinking outside the norm. It's not just a story like we normally would do. It's a little different. We interviewed some of our mental health experts, and they talk about why and the benefits of adult coloring books. May sound silly, coloring books are for kids, but there's actually some benefits to it if you enjoy coloring, or even if you don't, maybe give it a try. Could help you relieve some stress. So we teased this in the newsletter and then took them here to this page where they could download different versions. Of course, before you do any of this, before you start a campaign, you need to define your goals. And it's good to do that up front. Do it with the people who are stakeholders. Define what you want your people to do. Who are you sending this message to? Do you want them to, in healthcare, make an appointment? Do you want them to have a procedure done? Or do you just simply want them to sign up for an event, register for a seminar of some sort? Choose what you want them to do. Have a very clear call to action. And then choose how you will measure success. You have to be realistic about what your options are. Is it a conversion on your site? That's not very often in healthcare. So is it opens? Is it click-throughs to your site? So make sure you set that up ahead of time. And then the features. SilverPop has so many great features that I know that I'm not even using all of them. But take advantage of them. They're there for you to use. There's now templates built in, mobile responsive templates. There's all the tracking and reporting. And that reporting tab up on the right side, that thing has a wealth of information in there, stuff that I rarely use, but I probably should more. And then of course the A/B testing. Don't test too many different things at one time. It dilutes your data. It makes it hard to figure out what was winning, how, and why. If you just keep it to 2 items, you can test subject lines, determine the open rate based on those subject lines. Autoresponders, spam check, very helpful tools to use. Use all of them. Use all the features. I mentioned earlier how email is not considered HIPAA compliant, so we have to be careful about PHI, not including any information specifically about a person's condition. A lot of folks share email accounts, a lot of married folks. We find that a lot with our older patients. So we'll have an email that we send to Jim, and then Sally replies back to us with a question or a comment or something like that. So that always keeps us on our toes and reminds us that it has to not be terribly specific. Subject lines, we tie directly to our open rates. So spend time, make sure you get those subject lines down. Do a lot of A/B testing if you need to, if you have conflict or debate internally or within your team. And have clear call to actions. So you want to have a very specific path. Tell the user what they need to do. What is the next logical path forward? And then lots of testing. Use that litmus application if you have access to that. That's very helpful for testing purposes because we all don't have all the different versions of all the different email clients. There's thousands of different combinations. But definitely test on all the main ones. Send your self-tests, send your team tests, spend time, build time into your workflow for testing. This is actual data from our email sends, I think over the last 6 months. Keep in mind, this includes our 12,000 plus employees, most of whom are using the desktop version of Outlook. So if we were to take them out of the equation, we send them the e-newsletter each month. So take them out of the equation, I'd be very sure that the mobile open rate would be much greater than that. Desktop would probably be much smaller.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
That's really interesting stats right there.
Yeah.
So do you guys do like a lot of pre-broadcast testing? Like I know on the Silver platform, like you can check what it looks like on an Apple iPhone real easily, add
Right.
what's it called, tablet.
Sure.
One issue that we have, and Gmail's right up there,
Mhm.
double-digit figures. You can't pre-broadcast Gmail quickly on Silverpaw, and it actually, and Gmail actually does like some horizontal stacking
Mhm.
with the email as opposed to an iPhone native app, which is all vertical,
Right.
which is nice, but Gmail exposes your design imperfections. Is there a quick way to pre-broadcast test Gmail just to minimize those errors, or do you have to just go ahead and just do it?
I mean, are you sending a test to yourself to see that?
We do, but it's just like, and there's different platforms and stuff like that. It's nice to have like Gmail, like this would look like on Gmail,
Right.
right, with Silverpaw. Any workarounds for that?
So, maybe Lauren can speak more to that. I know that the Litmus
Yeah.
application can tie in.
You can use the email insights, which is.
Email Insights is what they call it, yeah.
White level version of the Litmus tool, which does all the testing.
Okay.
So you can see what everything looks like in like, I don't know, 50 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
different.
And that's
Multiple
built right in.
hundreds of combinations, yeah.
Okay, so email insights built right into the platform?
Yeah, it's an additional cost, so you can, go through us, or you could go direct to Litmus. It's pretty much the same, there's a few differences, but yeah, it's an add-on.
It's at the top menu on Silverpop, there's an applications tab, I think it is, right? Applications, and then it's under applications. And so if you have access to it, if you have to pay for that, it'll be called Email Insights. It gives you that Litmus tool built in there. It's probably better built in, just because then you don't have to like re-upload or like if you go to Litmus directly, you have to.
You have to code it and everything?
Yeah.
Well, one of the advantages is it also, it pulls in the individuals, what clients they're using and everything like
Right.
that.
Oh, sure. Right, that's where this is from. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where this is from. So you're able to tell it that you want to do tracking for devices. That's where this is from.
Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely very interesting to know. It certainly for us has informed many of our decisions, and not only related to email, but also to our website. When you're sending an email and you know that more than half of your recipients are opening it on their mobile, you want to make sure that wherever you're sending them is also mobile friendly.
Well, there is a deliverability to a Wednesday, and it's all about Gmail.
Oh,
That sounds great. Great, thank you for the info. For us, at CHI Health, we always want to keep building our email list. I'm sure you do as well. For us, we have kind of a built-in mechanism to keep building and growing our list, and that's from our electronic medical records. So every month we have, I don't know, a couple hundred new people who have come for service in our system. And so that kind of automatically is adding to our database. But there's also other opportunities to add to our database. Just asking the folks at the front desk, the point of service, the clinics, hospitals, when they receive new patients coming for an appointment, ask them for their email addresses at the time that they're collecting their co-payment. If they have an event or registration, we want to make sure we capture that. And not only do we want to capture it, we want to make sure that the language is such that we can utilize that information. We've had many events and registrations where different departments have conducted these on their own. They say, here, look at this list of 500 people who came to this thing. I said, did they give us their explicit permission to use this to market to them? Oh, yeah, about that. So, especially when you have like kids and things like that, it gets very difficult. So you pretty much just have to put that in a shredder, which really sucks. It's very painful, very, very painful. So make sure you run these things through your compliance department. Make sure you have the permission in the small fine print. And your HR, your employees, for us, many of our employees, we have 12,000 or more, they're also our patients. So we want to market to them just as we do to patients as well. So we get our employee data. And of course, a form on your website. We want to have an opt-in form. So, this is a recap of all the tips, things that I have mentioned today. All those features that we have, you want to mix the content, don't just hard sell, communicate with people. If you can use animation, that's always eye-catching. If there's a purpose for it, so that procedure with the animation, that's actually informing people. We saw so much more traffic to our site from that email when we included that animation. It shows people what it does. Make sure your headlines are on point along with your subject lines, of course. Think outside the box. If you can include an infographic to explain something, or printable even, show that rather than just text. Make sure you define your goals ahead of time. Be mobile friendly, of course, as we all know, and then keep expanding your email list. Keep building upon that. Are there any other questions or comments, discussions? I'm happy to chat with you. Yeah.
When you're talking about headlines, do you use the same text in the subject line as well?
Sometimes we do, or we tease it in the subject line. So it may not be word for word, but it'll be like, the one was like 10 ways to crush your cravings or something. It might be, crush your cravings and more in this issue or something like that. Very similar.
Healthcare.
Mhm.
How are you getting opt-ins for the EMR when somebody comes in for service? Fine print?
It's the fine print. And the fine print is vague enough that it says we can use your information to market to you. We're not going to sell it or whatever, but we'll use that information.
Legal.
Right. Yeah, so just make sure that it's on your fine print. We recently acquired and merged with another system, and so there was definitely some hairy moments when we were merging some of the data. It's like, okay, did we have the permission at the time that they potentially gave it to us, 10 years ago as part of that other system, and now they're part of our system? It's kind of crazy. But yeah, just make sure it's in that fine print. For sure.
Can I make the headlines question, which is kind of similar to as a fitness emphasis, especially since we talked about mobile responsive. It was a learning for us probably about a year and a half ago when we went mobile responsive. That you got to think about it too. You have your subject line, which is the most responsive, is going to be the first thing that they read after whoever it comes from. But in the mobile world, you have to think about the pre-header too, right? So you have your subject line, which is going to be the first thing you see,
that definitely should have been something in my presentation to talk about pre-header text. So that's the text that you see if you look at a preview, either on your phone or in Gmail, there's that extra information. How often do you see where it's the subject and then it says view this version in your browser, view this email in your browser? You don't want to see that. You want to have some additional information before that. That's the pre-header text, for sure. And so what we do is, yeah, we do what you're describing. So subject line, then the pre-header text. In our email, we make it, I think, 1 pixel big, and it's the same color as the background, so it doesn't even show at all, visibly, except for that preview. Ties in with the subject line, ties in with the rest of the email as well. I know some retailers I've seen, they actually make it visible as part of the top of the email before the view and browser text. So that's also an option. Yeah, do you do that as well, or how do you?
Absolutely, and we do it the same way, so if they render it in a desktop or a web mail where it's not movable, then it's not visible, it's just
Sure.
bloody, but it's there for the Gmail, for
Right.
the responsive to that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of that. That's a very good tip. Don't let that slip by. Don't send another email if view and browser is the very first thing people will see after the subject.
We have the issue sometimes when I get to the visuals, I see some of those instances when I try to hide that,
It could be colors.
yeah, I try to
Colors,
do
or
it.
something,
Yeah.
it could be something.
Yeah, you have to look at the HTML sometimes,
Yeah,
make
'cause
sure it's
it's like,
matching.
it's a high show, picture and pixels.
Sure. Yeah, just double check the color, the contrast, make sure it's either, if you don't want it to show, make sure it's the same as the background. I saw another hand over
Yeah,
there.
we've been kind of debating internally for emails to have them all text-based versus like all images. So a lot of like, if they don't turn the images to load immediately,
Sure.
there's the risk of them not seeing anything. So have you done like any kind of testing on that to see like if it's still a concern or if people are just kind of used to automatically loading images?
Yeah, I haven't really done any testing on that, but I do know that there maybe are some spam concerns if your messages are, although I see it from retailers, so I do have a question about that.
So we're in the same industry.
Mhm.
So we're a medical device company, but
Okay.
we're still, we have all the same industries. We have a lot of regions around the world that the culture, especially in healthcare, is much more responsive to text kind of only. So when certain countries might send out emails, there might be much more strict down, very limited in because it's just that cultural deal, so it's much more sensitive. You have to think about the type of content that's in emailing that too. Is the content promotional in nature where you are trying to sell them or get them to register for an event? Do they have a relationship with the salesperson? In his environment, that might not necessarily be the case, it's a hospital location. Whereas for us, we're sales to, to sales.
Sure.